Welcome in to another episode of Hockey Royalty Live, the official podcast of hockeyroyalty.com. Tonight, we are talking about our season predictions, how the Kings are going to fare this year, how the other divisions are looking up, shaking up, and a little bit of coast to coast with those mega contracts that came out today. So get in the chat, like and subscribe. You know what to do. Let's go. What's up, boys? It's been a while. Had to work last week, or last time we did, and I couldn't get out of this car dealership. But now I'm back. We're able to talk. The season is starting. Just got finished with the old Dodgers game. Playoff baseball. We got football. We got college football. We got hockey starting. It is the best sports month of the year. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, totally agree. October is probably up there in terms of best sports month. I'll definitely agree with that. Last week was a little rough. I was pretty much sick the entire week, like I told you guys, dealing with a bad cold. Still kind of just now getting over it. Got a little bit of a cough, but feeling much better. I would say like 90%. So ready for the season to start tomorrow. And yeah, it's been an eventful day today, even to get ready for the season. Yeah. So I'm ready for it. And also the Dodgers. Wanted to throw it away at the end there, but ended up coming through. So 2-0 series lead over the Phillies. Sorry to bring it up, Joe. I know baseball probably.
I know. I mean, just bludgeoned the Yankees have been the last 2 days. Although I oddly feel like this could get back to Toronto. Anyways, I've actually dodged it, Russ. Any sort of knock on wood, illness, colds, whatever. The kids had school start. I figured something's hockey's getting ready. My one kid's playing hockey, so thought for sure I'm coming home with something. But so far, so good. Dodging that, so hanging in there, doing all right. Prepping myself for a significant amount of coffee over the next 3 days to somehow make it through. I don't know. We'll see. Randon, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. Just trying to keep up with all 10 of my fantasy leagues. So that's pretty much my whole life right now. And I'm starting October. I'm starting the old intermittent fasting. Got to try to lose a few lbs.
Okay.
And my brother's wedding coming up in April, so got to trim down the hedges, if you will, and be able to fit into a suit. So just getting it going there. A little intermittent fasting, giving that a shot. Hitting the gym again, doing some push-ups, doing 60 push-ups a day, and just trying to get back into it,
little by little.
This old man's creaking, but we're trying to put things together. So, but speaking of putting things together, the Kings are ready to put together their roster and the start of the season. But before we do that, we have a couple people in the chat. Tofu Tomo with the all right. He says, I didn't think I was going to be excited for this season after the free agency moves, but I'm ready to be hurt again. I think. Lee coming here. Hey, friends. Joining from 38,000 feet, so we'll see if JetBlue's Wi-Fi can handle this obsceneness. Al Smith with a howdy. Jacob with the rookie. And Andy McDavid or Garcia is only 2 years more of McDavid. That'll be a nice little teaser for our coast to coast.
Only 2, yeah. We'll talk.
So let's dive in. Preseason is over. The roster is pretty much dwindled down to its last little bits. What was your overall thought of the preseason? And then we'll get into some good and the bad to start.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like this training camp / preseason was really, I guess, kind of boring. I mean, there wasn't really a lot of like battles to worry about. The lineup was, I mean, even before I know, like maybe with Corey Perry's injury, there was a little bit of question, like, okay, like who's going to take that spot? But I mean, right from the jump, Jeff Malott pretty much took that and ran with it. So after the first couple of preseason games and the performances he had through there, it was almost like, okay, now you just have to put him in there. And then they got through it. Seems to be on good health. I know Alex Ferrier had a little bit of a injury scare in Utah, left the game for about 5 minutes, didn't play in the last game, but it sounds like from today he's going to be okay for tomorrow night's game. So that's good. So health overall pretty good. But yeah, I mean, besides all that, I mean, I don't think there was really much else to take away. I mean, you kind of know what you're getting out of some of these players. I mean, or maybe what to expect from some of these players. I mean, hopefully, if they can continue what a lot of the forward group that we saw last year do, and can you continue that during the beginning of the season, that's great, and that's kind of that continuity we're looking for. So, I mean, as far as preseason takeaways, I know that last game wasn't really the best way to end it. I mean, you have a 4-0 lead going into the third period, and then you give it away. I mean, kind of brings back bitter memories from the playoffs a little bit, but I don't really put too much stock into that. It just seemed like it was one team in terms of the Kings who were just ready to let the preseason end. They're like, okay, like we got the lead, let's just get this over with. And it was the Ducks on the other side who were trying to get the preseason ending on a better note besides a 4-0 loss. So I don't put too much stock into that. It was a little bittersweet. I'm just happy they were able to get the win because now we don't have those questions going into the season. But yeah, besides all of that, I think the preseason was. I think it was a good overall preseason for the Kings.
Yeah, I kind of agree with a lot of what Russ said there. Not a whole lot to like any crazy takeaways. I don't think there's anything to get overly excited about. I don't think there's anything to be all bothered about. Obviously, the Perry injury, you hope for health coming out of that, but it is kind of what it is with the roster, which is kind of what we expected. I think everybody's just like, okay, can we just start the season? I don't care that much about how an individual performs in preseason, good or bad. I mean, I think Byfield had an awesome preseason last year, and he just wasn't the same player. We kept wondering where he was the first half of the season as compared to how he played in preseason. So I don't really take much away from how a guy plays in preseason. That it's going to translate. We're ready to drop the puck Tuesday and get moving with the season and just kind of see where the direction of this whole thing goes. The Kings are at a point where, and it's funny, we talked about this, I think, when we were on All the Kings Men last year with Jesse Cohen, about you get to a point where the Kings are almost like the Toronto Maple Leafs in a way. It was just like, nobody cares about the regular season. Can you get out of the first? Can you get to playoffs and just get out of the first round like that? It's gotten to the point where it's like we just get there already. But yeah, I agree. Not a whole lot. Is what it is. Let's get the season started.
Yeah, I mean, usually the last couple of years, there's been like a storyline that has gripped, which is usually a young prospect trying to make the roster, or will he get 9 games, or Green Tree had a little bit of that this year, but there really wasn't much room, even with the Corey Perry injury, for him to crack that roster, and it was kind of just slammed shut with Jeff Malott just having a really good preseason. So it's really no like storylines to really think of. Like, this team is the same team we've seen. They're going to play a similar style. I think it was interesting to see the power play, them doing the 5 forwards thing again. They had Doughty and Clark on the same power play at one point. So it looks like they're willing to keep it creative, like they ended last season. And as we've been saying every season for the last 3 years, when are these big jumps going to come from these young players? And you can't really tell that in the preseason yet. Yeah, Byfield had some moments. Brant Clark definitely had some moments in multiple games where he's just been an Apple machine. So I really think that, you're seeing a little bit of bits and pieces here. But, with this team, all the fans are waiting for May. I personally am excited. I'm excited for October. And the reason being is we get out to a hot start. We really see what this team is, and the development of some of these young guys like Brant Clark and Byfield, like is that next step being taken? And I know it's a long season, and that step might be in January, but for us hockey star fans, it'd be nice to see something in October with these young guys kind of taking that next leap, giving me optimism to only be let down again, as Tafu Tomo said later on. But we want to be happy on these podcasts. We want to be excited, and nothing gets me more excited than some Brant Clark sauce passes, and he had a couple of those in the preseason.
Yeah, he looks really good in that last game.
Yeah, you mentioned something, Randy, about the power play, and that if there's one thing that is like has got me kind of excited for this season is this idea of them rolling with this 5-man forward unit on the power play, because if anything, it seems to be, and at least will be, a bit unpredictable, I think, for teams, because there's so much kind of movement with it, so much fluidity with it, and unpredictability in that you don't always know where the play to be made is coming from. You know, how many times have we seen a 60-foot Doughty slap shot from the point? I mean, that became pretty predictable. Move it around the perimeter, move it around the perimeter, move it around the perimeter, Doughty shot. You know, you hope for the best. But here, like, there was the Byfield goal a couple of games ago. I don't know if it was the last game or 2 games ago. Out 4 guys touched the puck in like a matter of 4 seconds. It was bing, 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 bing. You know, Byfield kind of fanned on the shot, but the point is the puck movement was incredible. The movement was great, and that's the type of stuff that we just haven't seen a ton of in the Kings unit recently. The addition of Kuzmenko really brought that back in, but I just think that this look right now has a pretty high ceiling, and I think that could be really, really important for a Kings team that, you know, their power play wasn't, you know, it's kind of had its ups and downs over the last couple of seasons. But really with Kuzmenko in and going with these 5 forwards, I think it's this is as good as it's looked so far. So that's one thing I think genuinely to be pretty excited about.
Yeah, that was that last game they played where they had that Fiala to Kuzmenko to Byfield pass. I mean, the Fiala pass was almost as good as the Kuzmenko one-touch pass to Byfield in the middle. It's wild how much adding one player does to a power play. And I know it's like Andrei Kuzmenko, who's obviously a really skilled player, right shot player, but like just his impact alone, you just see it. Like the power play looks night and day different from power plays that we saw before he was acquired last trade deadline. I think one takeaway actually that they've been trying to prop it up a little bit more. I feel like Hiller's mentioned it a couple of times. I've heard like Jim Fox has talked about it. I mean, Drew Doughty's kind of resurgent season is what I'm looking forward to at the beginning of this year. And we all know how much Drew Doughty's going to want to make that Canada roster. He ended the last year. He probably was playing at maybe like 75%, if that. Had to have another surgery at the end of the year. And now from everyone's what we've all heard, it sounds like he's come back and ready to roll and going to be the old Drew Doughty that we remember. Because I mean, what was it like a couple years ago? He was one of the best players on the team, if not the best player on the team. Yeah. And then, I mean, even maybe before the injury, saw that a little bit. So I'm curious to see how he performs. Because I mean, this team can be really good, if not a really, like, we don't know how we'll talk about how they'll do in the playoffs, but they can be one of the best regular season teams if Drew Doughty can reach that level again. I know he's getting up there in age, but I think he still has some juice left in his game.
Yeah, I was interested to kind of see, you know, there's some lunatics out there to watch every single game of hockey that they possibly can. I'm looking at you, Joe Paterino. But to me, it was nice to kind of see the new additions. Joel Armia, kind of just seeing what he really looks like. Because, you know, you don't watch – I didn't really know much about him. And then Dumoulin, you know, Russ, you tweeted out a couple times that he looks better than what you expected. And when you don't see those players off there, you know, they're in the East and you only see them twice a year. And maybe they have a bad showing or something like that. You don't really get to see them on a day-to-day basis. Russ, I'll hit you with this question. I mean, Brant's been playing a lot with Joel Edmondson, but we thought that he might get some run with Dumoulin. What has Dumoulin brought that maybe could unlock Clark's next level, or do you think they're just going to stay with Joel Edmondson and the Clark pairing for most of the season?
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're going to stick with Joel Edmondson and Clark. I don't know why. I would like to see Dumoulin get that run. I just think Dumoulin's a better player than Joel Edmondson. So if you want to put a better player with Brant Clark, I mean, we kind of saw with that pairing. Not to say that they were bad. It's just I think you can get more out of Brant Clark if you're playing with someone like Brian Dumoulin. And I'm not going to sit here and say like Brian Dumoulin's like an all-star type player. I mean, that's not really even what Vladislav Gavrikov was. But a lot of talking about like how the Gavrikov, like the loss is going to be such a big impact to the Kings defensive game. Like I don't buy that at all. I mean, we've seen players like cough like Andreas Englund, like come in and play pretty solid hockey in his aspect. I mean, for Andreas Englund type, I mean, come in and look pretty good here. So I think Dumoulin alone, like I think like I said, I don't know if he'll be like an all-star. He won't be an all-star level player, but he'll definitely like be able to fill that void that Gavrikov left. So, and we've seen him be a little bit more offensive. It's funny, I told you guys, but I was watching one of the scrimmages at Toyota Sports Arena, and it was like one of the first few days of camps. And Jim Hiller's standing right next to me. He was talking to a fan, and then he looks over to me. He's like, "Hey, Russell, look, Joel Edmondson's playing below the circles. You gonna write a story about that?" And at the time, I thought he was more like joking about it. Like I thought he was just like throwing a joke. But I'm kind of noticing, like I'm trying to notice if maybe there's a little bit something more to that. Like maybe they are giving their defensemen a little bit more of a go ahead to play a little bit more offensive. Because last year we didn't see that at all. It was Vladislav Gavrikov and even Jordan Spence more or less manning the points and just shooting whenever they had the chance from the point man. But I mean, there were times the last game that Brian Dumoulin was below the circle, especially that last goal he had to Phil Deneau to pass to Deneau for the one-timer. So it's just something I'm going to keep my eyes on and see if maybe that's something that the Kings defensemen get a little bit more of a green light in the O zone.
That's fine. The irony is getting a Kings defense group that has the likes of Edmondson, CC, and let's activate. Like, okay. It seems a little backwards if now's the season where, I guess there were some times we saw whatever. And Randon, I don't know what they're going to end up doing, and with as far as if they're going to keep Edmondson with Clark. It looks like they'll start the season that way, and then. But I also wouldn't be surprised if we see some kind of throughout a game we could see some shifts around. We've all sat here and said I don't think any of us are changing our opinion that we fully expect the top four in terms of minutes played to be Anderson, Doughty, Edmondson, CC. Like that's so how they shake that out. Is going to we'll see through the course of the season. And I generally agree with Russ in that I think the way the Kings play and their structure and their style has kind of, protected lesser talented defensemen at times. And so I think and even propped up some of them. And I think that the loss of Gavrikov, like he had a great season last year. It is going to be a loss to some degree. I think what makes it a bigger loss is the fact that Russ, rather than going from Gavrikov to Dumoulin, you're going from Gavrikov to Edmondson, right? Because it really is Edmondson that's taking that spot. So that's a significant loss. Because when Edmondson was asked to play top 4 minutes last year, when there were times when you'd see Gavrikov play with Mikey Anderson and things, that was tough. That was really tough. So that is where it becomes an issue because, Gavrikov is a much better defender clearly than Edmondson. Set aside anything in terms of like puck abilities or anything like that, that is one thing Gavrikov was really good at.
You think Edmondson more minutes than Dumoulin this year, like on an average basis?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I suspect maybe you don't, and I hope you're right. But I think Edmondson will. Because
if anything, it's going to be like a minimal difference between the two.
Probably.
Opinion,
yeah.
That's what
true.
I was about to say is that everybody's making a big deal about, now we have 7, 4 lines and 3 pairings that we can roll out. Like that's going to be the big difference this year. At least in the regular season, Joe, do you think that they're going to try to spread out the minutes more, until Hiller panics and then rides the same 3 defensemen for 30 minutes a night?
Well, I think first of all, I do think they're going to have 4 lines. Like I think. Well, we should all caution ourselves for a second here. Perry's already hurt, and he's not getting any younger. Malott is had a nice preseason, but let's.
It's the same 4th line. It's the same 4th line, right? Or
right,
well, I guess,
right.
Yeah.
Well,
Armia is way better than Trevor Lewis. So let's just
true.
But you still got Turcotte who hasn't put it together, hasn't stayed on the ice, stayed healthy. Clearly, he didn't trust Hellenius. He already didn't trust Hellenius. So let's, just listen, I'm optimistic too about the fourth line because I think Balot's had a nice little preseason here. Armia is such an upgrade over Lewis. I'll be bullish on a healthy Turcotte whenever Turcotte's healthy, and he's healthy right now. So I'm bullish there. So I still think that it can be an effective fourth line. That doesn't mean it's a fourth line that, to Randon's point, that Hiller's is he going to want to play a Turcotte, and what if there's an injury? So I guess we'll deal with that later. But yeah, the defense. I mean, sure they can play him. They're guys that Hiller will play. Because he will have no problem playing Edmondson. He'll have no problem playing CC. He'll have no problem playing Dumoulin. Where last year he had problems playing Clark and Spence because of their youth, their defensive ability, their inexperience, which to a point is not totally unfair.
He's here now.
But so he won't have that problem with Edmondson and CC and Dumoulin, it seems we'll see how Clark goes. I imagine Clark wins his trust over as the season goes, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, yes, on paper you can play those six defensemen, but that might be a bad thing actually. The fact that playing them.
Well, I think that in a longer season, like you saw games last year where they were giving Gavrikov and Edmondson, 25 minutes a night, we were winning 4-1, I think those types of games, you can kind of spread it out. That kind of foreshadowed one of OC Steve's questions here. What's the ETA for Perry? Another 4 weeks. So he got injured in the beginning of September. It's a 6 to 8 week injury. So you're looking at end of October to mid-November, depending on the length. And then I'm sure there's going to be a week ramp up or whatever, a couple games in the AHL maybe to get him going. So I would say mid-November would be the latest.
I have a question for Luke Matthews in the chat, and it's kind of, I guess, to Russ too, because he says, I don't buy they'll give Edmondson top 4 minutes. Well, then is it Edmondson Clark as your third pair? Is that what you think? Do you think it's going to be Dumoulin CC getting those top 4 minutes, Russ? Or do you think that Clark, how do you see that shaking out? Because I cannot imagine things go rosy if with Clark on the third pair yet again. But
well, yeah, I mean, if we all expect CC to play more minutes than Brant Clark, right? So I mean, Brant Clark's paired with Joel Edmondson. If we think CC is going to be playing more than Brant Clark, then, but like I said, like we talked about, and even Brandon mentioned, they've talked about the depth, and even Drew Doughty mentioned it today. Zach Dooley tweeted it out or it was either the Bernstein, I forget which one tweeted it out, but Drew Doughty said we have 6 defensemen now that we're going to be able to play. Yeah. That's why we're a better team. It's okay. So I mean, if you buy that, then you would expect a more evenly distributed ice time in terms of minutes and whatnot. I mean, I still expect Drew Doughty's going to get his 25 minutes a game, which I'm cool with, totally fine with. If he's your number one defenseman, he should be getting that. So, and especially if he's back to same old Drew. But as far as the other two pairings, I would expect maybe a closer split between those two. So I don't, even if it's one's higher than the other, I don't think it's going to be that big of a difference.
Yeah, and Luke, I hope you're right that we have Dumoulin Clark second pairing. I think that's what we in this show want to see. I think that at least gives the Kings the most potential in terms of actually being able to do something out there. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see, Russ. I mean, and I think that's probably how they can shake it up.
Do you think we see a split of Doughty Anderson at all this year? I mean, because Anderson has been not fantastic, but that's been their number one pairing.
Yeah.
Dumoulin has the expertise. Do you think that maybe Dumoulin gets some shot but is he really a number one minutes eater as well?
I think it's a fair question. No, I think is the answer. As long as there's health, I think that's the pair. But I think that's a fair question, Randon, because that Anderson Doughty. Now, I think part of is going to go into this is Doughty just wasn't healthy last year, right? So that just weighed things down. But that pairing certainly hasn't done much in their first round matchups in the last few years. So I don't think it's a crazy question. I just, given the alternatives, Probably that's your top pair.
What do we think out of the young guys? Is there maybe a disappointment from the preseason? Maybe that like a certain instance or something that kind of gives you pause for the season, or we pretty much starting with a fresh slate here?
No, I mean, yeah, I don't really. It's hard, right? I mean, I don't really see a lot of negatives. I mean, a lot of the players are the same players. They're running through the same motions kind of throughout the preseason. I mean, you're more or less just hoping to get through preseason in good health. So, I mean, even if there was even poor play at times, I mean, I wasn't even really that worried about it. So, it's like, I mean, maybe you wanted to see more out of Liam Greentree, who even but I thought he had a pretty good preseason in himself. So, it's just kind of hard for a young player to really make a huge impact. I mean, so yeah, I really no negatives for me to take away.
Yeah, and another positive quickly, Randon, is like you hope, again, going back to Turcotte, that there's a little bit of buzz around him, right? And it seems that there is a little bit of buzz around him right now, and that's great, and hopefully he stays healthy. But yeah, honestly, like nothing in preseason altered much at all, one way or the other, positive or negative, in terms of starting the regular season and like season outlook. There was just nothing there, which is fine. It is what it is. Like, this is a team now. Hey, they've made playoffs 4 years in a row. They added a bunch of veterans. Like, this wasn't like a sexy or exciting preseason, and it wasn't necessarily going to be. It wasn't meant to be. This was a team that was pretty much established after free agency. So like this, it's time to start the regular season.
Yeah, I think there's only two questions really for me. One is, when are we going to get Kempe signed? And two is this one right here. I think it's not many qualms with the third string goalie, but will we get Copley back or get another goalie on waivers? Copley was going to be the veteran third option in case of injury. Now you just have a bunch of young guys down in the rain. Does Portillo get more run in case of an injury this year? Where do you guys kind of view that? Do you think they're going to go pick up another goalie and stash them on the rain? Do you think they're going to kind of wait and see how Portillo does? What's your kind of viewpoint on that?
Yeah, it seems like it's a bigger loss than a lot of us are probably making it out to be. Because, I mean, how many times in the last few years have they had to rely on their third string goalie? So, I mean, it comes up at a point in the season. Having Copley as kind of that insurance blanket was a nice luxury. So, I mean, it's a big loss, I feel like. I mean, we're not going to probably feel it, so maybe, or hopefully never feel it, but we're not going to feel it if we do till later on in the season. But yeah, I think it's a position that they need to fill. I don't know if I see a lot in terms of like being confident in giving Eric Portillo that spot. Like, not to say that I would not confident, I guess is the wrong way to put it. It's just, I would like to have another person there to kind of compete with him if that does come to the occasion. So I wouldn't be upset if Eric Portillo is like third goalie called up. But, I mean, if that's your only option, I mean, he's coming off a big-time injury. This is going to be his first pro season in, a year? So what are you going to get out of that? And then the other goalie that they signed, Isaiah Seville, who's probably going to be in the AHL, he's coming off another full-year injury too. So it's tough because if you pick up a goalie on waivers, you have to keep him on the NHL roster for like 30 days or before you can send him back down. Otherwise, he goes back on waivers. So they didn't really have that option. And then, not to mention, I mean, he's obviously filling up a roster spot. So I don't know. I think James Reimer was on a PTO with, I believe, Toronto, and he got cut. Yeah. I believe it was Toronto, and he got cut. So maybe you could convince him to come over and play some AHL games and be that goalie, because I think it's really something they need to look at.
Yeah, there's a lot of young-ish goalies that were on waivers recently that were kind of intriguing names. Nico Dawes, one, he ended up clearing and going down to Utica from the Devils. But anyways, there's veteran guys. Russ mentions Reimer that can kind of spot that third pair or third goaltending role for whatever it's worth. Listening to 32 Thoughts and Elliot Friedman today seemed to kind of hint at like a potential future reacquisition of Copley by the Kings, that for some reason, I don't know, I don't recall what his reasoning was as to why Tampa viewed this as a possible shorter term. Because
I
it
think
ain't
they're
like
low on Johansson.
well,
Because-
who's not? Of course
I
they
know.
are. I mean, so that's Johansson's low on Johansson, so I'm not surprised about that. So I don't know what their thoughts are going to be there, but he'd thrown that out there on his show, so take that for what it's worth. But yeah, I agree. Like it's throwing Portillo if something were to happen, throwing Portillo into the fire would be a bit of an ask, but I also think it's one of those things where there's generally a lot of like veteran goalies out there, either that are, third or fourth string on other teams that can perhaps be acquired if need be, or just kind of floating around waivers. So I just think there's going to be options for that particular role if it's needed. So we'll see. I guess I don't expect them to act with much urgency, but I guess we'll see.
All right. Well, before we get into Coast to Coast, this podcast is brought to you by our lovely sponsors here at DraftKings. Football is back, and so is your big shot at big wins with NFL DraftKings Pick 6, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Your game day instincts can score you real money fast. Here's the play. Pick more or less on 2 or more player stats, from breakout rookies to elite quarterbacks, and unlock every snap that it brings. With your better calls equals better payouts. Now, sometimes I like to go a touchdown or bust type parlay where you pick 2 or 3 guys that it's anytime touchdown, just so you're hoping for the end zone. And here's the bonus. DraftKings customers get $50 in bonus picks with just a $5 entry on your first pick set. This season, play your player instincts. Download DraftKings Pick 6 app now. Use code THPN. That's code THPN. Just get $5, or just to play $5, you get $50 in Pick 6 bonus picks. Make the call, ride the upside in this partnership with DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccbg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus age. Eligibility restrictions by jurisdiction. Pick 6 is not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 bonus picks that expire in 14 days of this limited time offer. See terms at pick6.com/promos. Well, it's time to get into our next segment here in Coast to Coast. We're going to be talking about things around, the coast. And here, the coast is going to bring you to Edmonton. The first big contract falls. Connor McDavid is signed. It is extended with your Edmonton Oilers, getting a 2-year by $12.5 million contract. Now, everybody thought it was going to be 8 by $26 million per something outlandish, resetting the whole market. But McDavid makes a statement saying, "Hey, I'll take less money. We got to win. I'm like spend the money elsewhere. I want to win a cup." First show, is this just a very good leadership move, or does this show how desperate Connor McDavid is for a cup in his career?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, it's just him doing a big favor to Edmonton and then also doing a favor to himself. I mean, yeah, because this deal alone, I mean, it surprised everybody. Everybody, especially with what everyone saw Kaprizov got. I mean, everyone was expecting McDavid to get something close to that, if not more. I mean, especially with him signing only a 2-year deal. I mean, a lot of people expected it to be a short-term variety, but only 2 years. 2 years at $12.5 million. I mean, this is unreal for the Oilers to get a player of McDavid's caliber, the best player in the NHL, signed at that contract is ridiculous. Like, it's just hard to fathom. And I mean, the only reason anybody can point to is just his will to want to win and to help the Oilers build the best team around him and give them a chance to do that. And I think this contract obviously does. So, I mean, good for him. I mean, that's what I think. You really just have to tip your cap because, I mean, if players really wanted to win, a lot of players could probably do that. I mean, it's hard to really be tough on like players that want to go get their money because when you're that good, you deserve this kind of money you're being paid. So nothing against like a Kaprizov for going out and getting paid because he totally deserved it. But for a player that wants to win, like McDavid, I mean, hats off to him. He's given his team the chance to do that.
I agree with pretty much everything you said. I don't ever criticize anybody like a Kaprizov wants to go get his money, get your money. The only thing that kind of rubs me the wrong way is when you do that and then wonder why the team hasn't been able to build maybe the rest of the team out. Like Seth Jones was like, man, I can't believe we stink in Chicago. Like, what do you mean? You didn't see that coming? So I think that this is like as if there wasn't enough pressure, I guess, on Stan Bowman. Like that's Connor McDavid saying, you better do a job now because I'm giving you got 3 years at a cheap Connor McDavid to fill out this roster and make something happen. So yeah, I mean, clearly he wants to win. Clearly he wants to win in Edmonton or he would have not signed. Right. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I always thought he would sign. And the short term makes sense, right? Because he will get another significant contract, and this really gives the Oilers a couple of years here to really build around him and Draisaitl, and I think he's probably right. Like if you're looking at the landscape and what gives you the best chance to win a cup, playing with like one of the other best players in the world is a pretty good start. When you look at the decor that they've got, that's really good. That's one of the best decors in the league after they locked up Wallman, that I'm sure we'll talk about here, Randon. So that looks pretty good. They've got their questions in goal. They've got their questions. They always have depth questions, yet the depth always comes through in playoffs. So they'll continue to be questioned, and then they usually come through. And, as for all the questions that they've had, they're back-to-back made the cup final and lost to a juggernaut of a Florida team. So it can't be all that bad in Edmonton for as much as people sometimes want to make it out to be in terms of top heavy and no goaltending or no defense or whatever. Like they're doing something right. And he sees that. So he said, you know what? He's staying and there's an opportunity here that Stan Bowman has a chance to build out a little bit more over these next couple of seasons. So we'll see what happens. And like setting Kings fandom aside, like I want Connor McDavid to win a Stanley Cup. Like just as a hockey fan, like I want the best guys in all their sports to win. Like I just want to see that. Like I wanted Crosby to win. I'm happy Ovechkin got his. I want to see these guys win a cup. I mean, and I know that's sacrilegious to say in a Kings podcast, but like just setting that aside for a second, like as a fan of the sport, he's what, 28, 29 years old now. So he's approaching his 30s. I just would hate to see a career like that. And Draisaitl too, for that matter, that goes without winning. So we'll see what happens. He's got a couple years to do it. And you don't see stuff like this too often though. That's for sure.
Well, Joe, it's not sacrilegious to say we want to see McDavid win a cup. We can just wait till 2028 for it to happen. Right?
Touche.
I mean, one thing I'll say though, with this contract, I think him signing at this fair of a deal for Edmonton, I wonder if it's like his way of saying like, hey, I'm giving you guys 2 years at it's going to be 3 years, obviously, with the next deal.
Sure.
But I'm giving you guys 3 years at like a ridiculous discount to build a team. And then my opinion, and then he's saying, then I'm out. That's what I believe is going to happen. I don't know. There's been rumors, and not to say like he's going to LA, but I would think like this points to like him saying like, hey, I'm giving you guys the best chance to do it, and then I'm going to be gone. Did you kind of get that feeling too with this?
Yeah, I look at this as I want to do it here. I want to do it here. I want to do it at Edmonton. So I'm going to sign for cheap, and I'm going to give you a couple of years to do it. But this leaves his door open to say, I'm not just locking in for the sake of locking in. Like if the direction after a couple of years isn't right, I'm out. But I think him giving Edmonton the first chance, I think he wants to do it in Edmonton. I think he likes it there, and I think he wants to stay. And I think if they win, then he'll ink a career deal with the Oilers if they win a cup. I think then he stays for long. But we'll see.
Is it like, because I think it's, I think most players want to spend their entire career in one spot and like kind of cash in on what he was meant to be. I mean, he's a generational type player, and the amount of pressure on him has been there since he was 16. And I think that he wants to fulfill the prophecy of him being the next, great player. You look at a lot of players that don't have championships. You know, the Dan Marinos, the Charles Barkleys, the Karl Malones, the Mike Trouts. Like after like their legacy is done, it's like those guys kind of just fade off. And and Dan Marino will never be in the best quarterbacks of all time conversation because he never won one. If McDavid doesn't win a Stanley Cup, like he'll never be in the stratosphere of Sid Crosby, Wayne Gretzky, all those guys, no matter where his stats end up, because he failed to bring home the big one.
And he should be, and that's why I want him to get one. Because you're right, Randon. Like those guys that you mentioned, they're just not looked at in the same light, in the same way as some other guys that have won. And I get it. Like I don't.
That's why you play, right? Especially in Stanley Cup, all trophies.
Yeah, I get it. But it would suck because he's just been that good and that dominant for so long. And I suspect he's got some more years, plenty of really good years in him that, he should get one.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see what they do there. And he's going to give them enough time to put something together. And then he leaves. Where does that kind of like sit with you guys? I'm sure it's, how you do it is a big thing, but almost like the little LeBron James thing. Like he waited forever for Cleveland to build a winner there and they couldn't. So he left and chased a championship. Like, I don't fault guys for doing that. I don't think that Connor McDavid will host a radio show and say he's moving his talent somewhere else. But I think he'll be a little bit more calm in the whole thing. But I don't blame players for wanting to get the ultimate goal. And you look at Corey Perry's been doing it for the last 6 years, and he already has one, right? Like, yeah, he already has one. So like the Karl Malone's going to the Lakers at the end of the career, and all those types of players that do that to try to chase a ring is the ultimate goal. Like you don't, when you're a young kid, it's a game of the Stanley Cup. It's not like, oh yeah, I amassed enough stats to be one of the best ever. I don't think anybody, when they're a kid, I want my number in the rafters of this organization. No, they want to lift the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that, is on his mind for sure, because you just looked at him at the end of the last season. It's like back-to-back losses in the finals. Like, it's just like, I don't know how Bills fans did it. Like 4 straight losses in a row, man. Like, that's brutal.
Oh my God. I mean, they're going through it now. Something to looking forward to. I mean, something to keep in mind that 2028 when
that's the other thing, Russ.
Too.
Yeah, it's what content he keeps a lot alive by signing such a short deal. Like, you keep those little sprinkle of hope for any team out there. It's like, well, maybe in a couple years.
Could you imagine the suitors? Like, if he did say hey, I'm gonna leave, and remember when Brad Richards was a free agent?
Oh yeah,
there's talk all those meetings and players showing up to
Didn't the Kings get locked
speeches. Out? Yeah, the Kings were
locked out in Toronto or something like that.
Could you imagine the Connor McDavid when there's people lining out the door? It is it's gonna be unreal.
The other signing from Edmonton, Jacob Wallman gets a 7x7 from going from off the street and into the pocketbook. Wallman inks a nice little deal here. Was quality defenseman, one of the top defensemen for them in the playoffs last year. What do you guys view about this move, and how does that solidify the Oilers' decor?
Yeah, it's kind of just goes hand in hand with the McDavid signing and kind of gives them the chance. It gave them the chance to do this. I mean, it is kind of interesting if you kind of look at Wallman's now history in the league. I mean, he was traded from Detroit to San Jose along with a draft pick to San Jose for nothing.
First,
what is Detroit doing?
I need a book on that, because there had to be something that happened.
There had to be something going on there, right? Like, for whatever reason, I have no idea what the Red Wings are doing. I still don't. I mean, Stevie Y.
Get somebody with a tinfoil hat, Randon. Find out what happened there.
Exactly. That was so weird. And now all of a sudden he's getting a 7x7. Talk about a turnaround. It's almost like a Gavrikov type turnaround. I mean, Gavrikov is getting paid to $2.5 million 3-4 years ago. Now he's making 7 by something.
But the thing is Wallman was pretty good in Detroit. So it wasn't like he was bad. That's what I don't understand. Maybe he had a little bit of a down year or something, but that like he wasn't a bad player. So I think this was an outstanding move by Bowman to get him. I think that is an excellent defense group. Ekholm, Bouchard, you can, Nurse can play, stays on that second pair with Wallman. I really like, you guys know Brett Kulak. We're fans of him on this show. Ty Emberson impressed me quite a bit too, and he got some experience in the playoffs last year and got to play some games there. So I think he's going to be a really solid, RD3 for them. And, Troy Stetcher can be a 7D man, which I think is perfectly fine, and slotting in the RD3. I really, really like that decor. They can move. They're big. They're long. They're physical when they need to be. They all those guys can move. So, and they've got like the best of both worlds. They're all big. They all move. They can move the puck. They're really good skaters. I really, really like that defense group. I think that's an underrated strength of this Edmonton team is their defensemen.
Well, with what everybody wants to know is how does this relate to Adrian Kempe? You have the Kirill Kaprizov 8x17 per AAV. When you thought that McDavid was going to come in with $20 million a year or something crazy to go over the top of that, because that's usually how it works. He settles in at the 12. Obviously, I think everybody in the world, including people's agents, know that he took a pay cut. So not that it directly affects Kempe, but does the Kaprizov deal affect Kempe? And there's still some other big names that need to sign their extensions. Does it get you think that Kempe is now in like the 11-12 range versus the 10 range? Like, how do you guys kind of view the free agent landscape so far?
I don't know if they go hand in hand. I mean, with McDavid's deal, I think everybody will kind of look at McDavid's deal and say that's kind of an anomaly in terms of like the 2026 free agent class. We all realize what he's trying to do. He's giving them the discount. Kempe's deal, if he does resign, which I think we all expect him to, it would most likely be a long-term deal. So I think that's when you'll start to see it go up even higher, probably be in like an 11.5 range, maybe when we all expected it to be maybe like 10.5. Because, I mean, when the players now re-signing, especially now, when the players re-signing long-term, they're leaving a lot of money off the table in the back end because of the way the salary cap's going up, even forgetting their age. I mean, with the salary cap going up the way it is,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's going to be a really low percentage in terms of the impact that they're able to make on a team. So I would expect Kempe to get something now, probably an 11-ish range. No, I don't think it's going to be anything close to 12, but I honestly wouldn't be surprised, to be honest with you. We all know the impact Kempe has on this team, and to lose a player like that, I mean, the Kings would have to rebuild. It's like, where do you go from there? Besides like signing another big name free agent, there's nobody else. Kempe, a lot of people can talk about his points during the regular season and say how he's never been a point per game player. Well, he's a point per game player when it counts, and that's kind of where it counts, or where the Kings need those type of players right now. So we'll see. I don't think, like I said, I don't know if it'll be close to 12, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's around the $11.5 million range.
Yeah, I agree, and I agree with what you said too. That I think the McDavid deal is a bit of an anomaly. I don't think anybody's going to be tricked by that. Maybe the Kaprizov deal, Kaprizov moves it up a little bit, but I just had always figured Kempe's going to be on a term deal, $10 million. That's kind of where I think he lands now, or at least that's where it starts, I should say. But I don't know. There's been some flutters out there that the two sides are not necessarily, not that they're close, not to say that they're far, but there's, it's not exactly a slam dunk, at least right now. So I don't know what that means. We don't know what the Kempe side's looking for. We don't know where the Kings are at. So, we've talked about over the last few weeks, kind of like where our panic is, and I'm still pretty low. I still think he signs. Obviously you prefer it to be done now before the season, but, I still think it gets done. And I think you're probably Randon in, I'd say above 10, but below 11. I don't know. I don't think he gets to the 12, I guess is where I'm at.
Yep, 10 to 12 seems about right from where the market's going and the type of player that he is. Like, is he the future captain of this team when Kopitar retires? Like, do you think they'll give it to Doughty for a couple years and then give it to somebody else, or do you think they'll try to get a younger?
That's where I think they'll go. That's what I think they'll do. I mean, Doughty kind of deserves it.
Yeah.
And even if it's just for a couple years, like captains don't need to be this long. You don't need to be thinking 8 years in advance for your captainship. It's for that season. I mean, we've been obviously blessed with the last couple captains in LA, but I mean, there's some teams that don't go into season without a captain. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I think Doughty and his legacy would be better suited if he ended it with as a captaincy, even if it's for like 2 or 3 years. That'd be totally fine with it.
I don't know. I've kind of figured this. I wouldn't be surprised to see eventually Mikey Anderson wear the C, but we'll see. I agree with Russ though. I think Doughty would probably be the most logical to get it kind of in the short term and after Kopitar retires, and then we'll see. But I mean, I don't know, Randon or Russ, whichever one you said about the guys leaving money on the table. That's why there was just a report about Logan Cooley turning down a deal that was just under 10 million. It was like $9.5 million, which again I think is very smart by teams to do if they can lock up these young guys to money like that. It seems like, are you serious? That's a lot of money now, but over the course of the contract, that should do well. They did it with Clayton Keller. He was one of the first ones. So
Dylan Gunther.
Yeah, I like that move. So I think, I
heard that Lane Hudson was offered Noah Dobson money and he turned it down.
Yeah, I mean, that's the idea is teams, if they're smart, are going to try to lock up these guys, not to bridge deals, but for a significant term. And it'll be a lot of money in the short term that may look a little bit of a sticker shock. But if the player develops like you expect them to develop, then it's going to be a steal. I mean, I think Buffalo, of all teams to get it wrong, it's Buffalo. I mean, they did it with Dylan Cousins. It didn't work. They did it with Matthias Samuelson, although his term or his dollars was a lot lower. That didn't quite work, although Tage Thompson's paid out pretty nicely. So, I still think that that's the way to go. Because I think if you're getting these guys, because what happens is you see years down the road, when teams are looking at the Florida Panthers and like, that's all Barkov makes, or you look at these teams like, how did they get him at this money? It's like, well, they signed him very young for a very long time for, at the time, was a big payday or a lot of money. But over the course of his career, he's far exceeded that. That's the whole point. If your team can figure that out, you're going to be successful.
Yeah, the Gus Forsling contract there. I mean,
right.
Some of these contracts that are coming out, though, I mean, you have to look at Quentin Byfield's deal and say, man, the Kings got an incredible bargain there. I mean, you would have liked to see maybe 8-year deal, but when he signed 6 years at 6.5 or something.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, that exactly like it that he should cruise past that. We're all expecting that, right? Yes. That's the benefit of him not having that like complete season yet, I guess, right? Yeah. Where, maybe LA saved a couple million there in the short term, but yeah, exactly.
It's I wonder if it's the way the short-term deal until the market kind of settles out. I mean, the salary cap can't just continue going up by 3, 4, 5, 6 million every single year. Eventually it's going to get to a point and you might see increases of, $500K or $1 million, similar to the NFL, where it's like, it's a steady increase, not as violent as it will be for this year and the next couple of years to come. I think the players are just kind of waiting to see the dust settles and signing these smaller deals, maybe, unless you just get absolutely the Brinks truck backed up to your front door and the Kirill Kaprizov type deal. I mean, he set the market by over 3.5 or 4 million, I think. The next closest deal. So
Eichel's deal is going to be interesting. Eichel.
Yeah.
That's the deal to watch for,
Yeah.
because he's the one on the level of Kaprizov and McDavid. And I mean, I don't know if he'll be the one. He'll be the discount type in Vegas. That'll be interesting because he's already won. So it's like, I don't need to be taking a discount here.
Yeah, and I just think that's Eichel's going to be interesting, and Kaprizov, like, man, I like when you look at his importance to Minnesota too. Like we hear so often, and it's not to say it's not true about the players that they don't have a lot of leverage, but we've seen a lot of guys hold out for a while or hold and they'll end up getting paid. And Kaprizov is one where there was all these rumors about whether or not he was going to stay. He turned down this, he turned down that, whatever it was. I think Minnesota knows, well, if we lose him, it's over. Like you said with Russ or Kempe, or you said with Kempe earlier, Russ, like if the Kings, didn't re-sign Kempe, where are you going? There's no one filling that spot. And a team like Minnesota or a team like LA, they can't afford to do that and be successful still. So the importance of that player. So maybe that's why a Kempe, maybe he, quote unquote, should be like a 10 million, 11 million, but maybe because of his importance to the Kings that he gets up to the 11 to $12 million range. This was talked about, Alex Tuck in Buffalo could be a $10 million player, which sounds maybe like a lot to some people, but his importance to the Sabres he's way more important in the Sabres than he is to like other teams, and he wants to stay, yada, yada. So, all that stuff kind of comes into play. Like every situation's a little bit different. So it's hard. And I'm interested to see what happens with the Eichel thing in Vegas. I expect Eichel to stay. But who knows? Maybe he has his sights set a little bit further west, Russ.
Yeah, there's a spot.
I hear something's opening up next season. So, I mean, there's something interesting to see and keep it track of in these contracts, and how teams kind of view this whole thing is going to be interesting to navigate over the next couple seasons. Well, that was it for Coast to Coast. We're going to talk back about the Kings right now. So we're going to flip it over to a little bit of bold predictions, and then we're going to get into kind of season outlooks, not only for the Kings, but all the divisions and kind of see where we think about the divisions there. But let's start with the bold predictions. Joe, what is your bold prediction for 2026?
Oh, man. I've been going back and forth on this one for a bit. As I kind of like, one was fairly negative. But I'm going to go positive. Just looking around at different players. Like, we've talked about how this is like a season where there's not like surprises in camp. We know who's making the roster. Like a lot of lineup spots have been kind of set. So I there's a lot that was kind of there. So I feel like what makes it trying to find something that's bold. But I was looking around and looking at some tracking data and looking at various things. And, I looked back and I was looking at like leaderboards for the Kings over the last bunch of years. The Kings have not had a player that has recorded 50 assists since the 2017-18 season, when ironically Kopitar and Doughty both did it. But no one since. And I think that changes this year. And I think it's Quentin Byfield that does it. And I think Quentin Byfield leads the team in assists this year. He eclipses the 50 assist mark. And I think we see somewhat of a, like one of those 20 goal, 55 assist type of seasons from Byfield. I think he's, piggybacking off the second half of last year, not only with his increased ice time, but his playing with Fiala and Laferriere as well, but in large part Kevin Fiala, who's just incredibly talented, as we all know, and his now emergence as somebody that appears to be at least been given a shot here to maintain and hold and play on the first power play unit. I think this is a big opportunity for him. I think the 82 game season offensive breakout, I think, is coming this year. I think, again, we're going to see it in the likes of something like a 20 plus 55 type of season, right? I don't think Byfield is a player that is going to score 30 goals. I don't think he's got that type of shot. And even if he did, he, at least to date, he doesn't use it ever. Like even among players that are that are listed as centermen in the NHL, I think Byfield, he came out just around the top 50 of centers in the NHL in terms of shots on goal. So he's more of a playmaker anyways, in a position where they're generally more playmakers, usually centers than wingers are. He's even more so just because he's not someone that shoots the puck a ton. And his chance creation tracking stats they haven't been elite, they haven't been great, but they've been good. They've been above average to good. And again, I think the added ice time of the player like Kevin Fiala, and also not to throw any shade at Laferriere, like I think this kid is such a smart player. He finds himself into those good areas. He finds pockets of space, and especially if he can get his release continue to improve there. We saw that at the start of last season. So I think you're looking at a lot of bullish opportunity and bullish trends for Quinton Byfield here. And so, yeah, my bold predictions that we finally see, it's been over 7, 8 years or so since we've seen somebody knock 50 assists. And I think Byfield does it. I think he gets probably closer to 60, frankly.
There you go. I was thinking about him for one of mine. But ultimately I gotta go with my boy. But my prediction for Byfield was he does enough in the first half of the season, and he's on such a tear and such a dominating factor for the Kings that he makes the roster for Team Canada anyway.
See, now that's bold.
Ooh, there we go. I like it.
That's bold. Mine's not nearly bold enough. That's good stuff, Brandon.
And it's like I can see it happening too, right? Like, I mean, injuries could happen too. You never know. And if he was invited to the camp. So if he does have that season, I like it.
But I went with a Brant Clark one, so I'll tell you that.
Okay.
Russell Morgan, what is your bold prediction for 2026?
Well, yeah, I shared it online the other day. My bold prediction kind of goes hand in hand with Joe's a little bit, different player. But I go with Kevin Fiala is going to lead the team in points, and he's going to have 90-plus points to set a career high. I believe it's going to be something around 30 goals, 60-plus assists. And I think, like Joe said, I mean, a lot of it has to do with his play with Quinton Byfield. I mean, those two together, not to mention Laferriere, who I've always been high on, those three, I guess, together have been outstanding. But in terms of just looking at Byfield and Fiala together, last year, when Kevin Fiala was not playing with Quinton Byfield, he generated a total of 2.07 goals per 60. When he was playing with Quinton Byfield, Kevin Fiala and Byfield generated 2.97 goals per 60 minutes. So that's an extra goal per 60 that you're looking at between those two. And not to mention what we talked about in terms of the power play impact alone. I mean, to have Kuzmenko and Fiala now on opposite wings, I mean, I think that in itself, I believe last year Fiala had like one of his lowest seasons in terms of power play assists since coming to LA. And I think that number is only going to skyrocket. So I'm very high on Kevin Fiala this year. I think he's turned a corner in terms of his overall play. And we saw that throughout the season last year. And I think it's going to turn into a lot more production in terms of his points. So, yeah, let's say 90-plus points for Kevin Fiala and the first King to do that since Kopitar's Hart Trophy nominee season.
There we go. I like it. We're expecting big things out of that line.
Yeah.
For both of the predictions there. I'm sitting here at the blackjack table and I'm getting, I flip over the card and it's Brant Clark, and I flip over another card, it's Brant Clark. So I'm splitting those. I'm doubling down. I'm putting all my chips in. I'm actually throwing a little bit more. I'm up in the ante. I'm going all kinds of different betting games here, but last year he gets over 40 assists and 50 points. I think he does that. I'm going to up it by 5. I think the trust is going to be there this year. I think he will get consistent power play time on the season, whether it's on the number 2 unit, that's fine. And I think he gets over 55 points this year.
Yeah, I mean, he was tracking that way, Randon, right? Last year, right up until Jim Hiller told him to stop tracking that way, is when is when it stopped. Like
he probably got Jim Hiller probably got tired of all my tweets of how many apples that this kid has.
He was like, "There's no way Joe can get back-to-back bold predictions right." So we're halting Clark right at the stop. But yeah, I love it, Randy. I mean, I think listen, and I will say this because Jim Hiller is saying his praises throughout the preseason of Brandt Clark, and he mentioned how Clark looks like much more of a mature player, and yeah, he looks great right now. I think the ceiling is for sure there, Randon, for him to get 55 points, 55 plus. I think that there's a lot of potential there for Brandt Clark, and hopefully we see it.
Yeah, he had 33 points last year, and I just think that middle drop in the season with where we saw the trust kind of fall off. I really think that trust is going to be there, and I have to believe it. It's the only way that I'm going to get through the night is if I believe that the Kings trust Brandt Clark. But if Quentin Byfield's having a record-setting season and Fiala's having a record-setting season and that whole line is doing good, that means points are coming from the blue line. And I think that the best creator on the team from the blue line is Brandt Clark. And so I think he's going to be the benefit of some better offensive play. With them going with the 5 forward unit, I hope he gets enough run on that second unit consistently. That's kind of what killed him to getting 50 last year is they took him off the power play. Otherwise, I think you would have saw him hit 50 last season. So if it's more consistent, they trust him down the way, and the offensive as a whole is a step up for the Kings, which is what we're predicting. I think that he gets that 50, 55 point total and shows why he was a top 10 pick.
I mean, it doesn't even really need to be a step up, right? I mean, it just needs to be the same offense that we saw after the trade deadline. They led the NHL in goals after the trade deadline. So, I mean, you're bringing back pretty much the same team besides defensively. It's not like you lost a Cale Makar on the back end. I mean, you're bringing back pretty much the same forward group, the same power play. You would expect that to kind of continue. I mean, if it doesn't, then it's kind of it's a loss there at that point.
Yeah.
Well, those are 3 big ones. We'll be tracking them as the season goes along. Let's get into the kind of the standings and kind of our view of each of the divisions here throughout the NHL. We'll end with the Pacific. So we'll start over in the Eastern Conference with the Metropolitan. And where do you kind of view the best intrigue for this division?
Ooh, in terms of intrigue, I'm looking at Columbus. I think that's the team I like the most. Not to say that they'll win the division, but I think this will finally be the year that Columbus kind of figures it out. I guess I could just give you guys we just do or who we believe will make the playoffs out of these. Is that where you guys want to go with that?
Yeah, I think biggest intrigue or what we're looking forward to most, and then if you want to give some standing picks, yeah,
because I got let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 4 teams making it out of the Atlantic, and I got 4 making it out of the Metro. So my 4 Metro teams are Carolina, Columbus, New Jersey, and I'll just say the Rangers. I never loved
Washington
the Rangers,
doesn't make it. Wow.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I think last year a lot of it was kind of like Ovechkin hype and playing for that record, and they have a good team. I'm just not sold that can continue. I mean, they have great players. Yeah, I just think Columbus is a team that kind of sneaks up on those playoff teams from last year. So yeah, I think that those are my 4 teams out of the Metro here. I mean, the other teams, Philly, they'll be a fun team to watch with Mitchkoff and whatnot, but it is what it is with them. Even with Rick Tocchet, I just think they'll be a fun team. The Islanders, they're still rebuilding. Matthew Schaefer looks really good, though. He'll be a fun player to watch. And then Pittsburgh, I think everybody kind of sees the writing on the wall with them. I mean, it doesn't really look like it'll be like a playoff type season. I think everybody's waiting to see if Crosby gets traded there. So, yeah, I'm going with those 4.
I've got 3 teams out of the Metro. Carolina I think Carolina is the best team in the East. then I have New Jersey, and I have Washington in, but I do agree with Russ that Columbus is a very intriguing team. And like I wouldn't be surprised if Columbus does overtake Washington there for the third spot. I think Philly is interesting, but I don't think they're that interesting. I don't know what to make of the Rangers. I don't
almost
know.
put him in by default, to be honest
Yeah,
with you.
I don't know. Honestly, I'm not excited about them. I don't know what to make of them. I think the Islanders stink, and I think Pittsburgh stinks. So Carolina, New Jersey, Washington, but I am with Russ that I do think Columbus could make a little noise and compete for that third spot. But I'll put Washington there for now. I just think their depth is strong enough.
Yeah, I think my biggest intrigue out of this division, you have a lot of older guys leaving, like older stars, and Ovechkin, or getting till the tail end of his career. Crosby towards the tail end of his career. So with those, and then obviously we have other stars. Kopitar, this is his last season. So as the older stars leave, it makes way for new young stars, and I think the culture in Philly was really bad last year. And when they moved on from the head coach and kind of the breath of fresh air came in, you saw Mitchkov kind of have like a resurgent second half. He had 63 points. Like I think it was kind of a quiet 63, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think he can make a lot of noise this year. And the only reason I think he wasn't in line to be the number one overall pick in that draft was because he was from Russia. I think if he played in the United States, he could have been up there for the number one overall. So I think he's the biggest intrigue out of this division. And if he takes that jump and can carry Philly, like they could not be like maybe a serious contender out of that division, but he could drag them to a couple more points with his elevated play. And I just think it's just fun to watch. Like he's just a phenomenal player, very exciting highlight reel type guy, and seeing that next step and the next young stars of the Mitchkoffs and the Celebrinis and these Bedards and these young guys kind of take that next step. I think out of this division, Mitchkoff would be the one that I would really loved his play out of the draft, and now hopefully he gets to kind of take that next step and become a future star and maybe the all-star pick for that team. Actually there's not going to be an all-star game. How are they going to do that this year? Are they just like picking like, hey, these are the all-stars of the year and enjoy the Olympics?
Yeah, that might be interesting. Maybe they just have a named ceremonial all-star team.
Yeah, I can't remember what they did in the past. I can't remember. But it's a good call though, Randon, on Mitchkov, and Rick Tocchet, new coach. So we'll see. We'll see. They could be interesting.
Flip it over here to the Atlantic. I'll start with Joe this time. How do you kind of see this division shaking up?
I mean, I almost think this is kind of a wide open division right now. I got Tampa winning it. I'll say by default because I think they're the best right now, and because just the injuries to Florida are significant. Like I don't think that can be you can't just take Barkov and Kachukov and they'll be fine. Like those are big time injuries. I know they've got plenty of depth, but those are significant. I still think Toronto's good, but I think after Tampa, like I think this is open. I have Toronto at second. I've got 5 teams in this division making playoffs. Tampa, Toronto. I've got Ottawa third. I am going to have Florida in a wild card because I just think their depth is good enough. Kachuk will get back, and I think they're good enough to make a wild card. And I think Buffalo makes playoffs this year.
No
so
Montreal.
No, I am very interested in Montreal. I think last year was a little bit fluky. I think there's some real promise there. I do like the addition of Dobson. So I like what they got going on. But I think this is one of those things where they're going to take it's going to seem like they're going to take a step back because they're going to miss playoffs. But last year they were not that great of a team and they made playoffs. I think this year they'll be kind of a better team. Their play will be better. I think they'll take a step that way. But I just think the way the division shakes out or the conference shakes out, that I think they'll be on the outside looking in, but I think the future is very, very bright in Montreal. But again, like, talk about an intriguing team. They're right up there. I just can't get with Detroit. I don't know what they're. I don't know. I'm just not in on them. But I am interested in Montreal. But I've just got them on the outside looking in, because again, Toronto, the loss of Marner is going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But I think Ottawa made playoffs last year. I think they're more real than Montreal is. And like I said, I think Buffalo does it. I think they're making playoffs. It's funny. I actually wrote Buffalo third, but then I did the arrows. Like, no, I'm going to swap them with Ottawa, just because they got some injuries to start the season. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that was my biggest intrigue before we get to your picks, Russ. Is I think last year we had a drought ender in Ottawa, which was huge for that franchise. Will there be another one in Buffalo? Like, Detroit's been kind of starved for playoffs for a long time. Montreal is the Mecca hockey town or whatever. Will they get back in and just for their thing? I think there's a lot of organizations that need a playoff win or a playoff appearance. None more than the Buffalo Sabres, which they're tied for first with the longest drought in sports. Them and the New York Jets. So I think it would do a lot to the people of Buffalo for them to make the playoffs. And so that's kind of my intrigue there. Like, they're always, this is their year. And then it's like, no, they're dog water still. Like, so is this really the time that they're going to turn it around? I think that's just going to be my thing that I'm going to be looking forward to. Got to root for the underdog. And I can't imagine being a fan of an organization where they miss the playoffs for 14 straight seasons.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, I'll just maybe give my hot take of the season. I think the Toronto Maple Leafs missed the playoffs.
Interesting.
I'm not high on their defense. I've never really been a Morgan Rielly fan. Their goaltending, Anthony Stolarz is a good goaltender. I don't think he's a great goaltender. And the loss of Marner is going to affect them more than I think a lot of people, especially Leaf fans, will think. I like Nylander. I think he's a great offensive player. I don't think he's a winning player. Tavares is getting older. Matthews, who knows? He's dealt with a lot of injuries, but I think he'll still be that Austin Matthews we expect. So if anything, he'll kind of be the one. But you kind of look at that lineup, it's just full of guys. It really is. And that's it's just kind of hard to really think of them as a playoff type team. And I think there's some better teams in this division. I'm with you with Buffalo. I have them as a wild card team. I think that you kind of sold me on that Kesselring trade. I think a lot of people are going to be. Yeah, now he's hurt. But how long is he out for?
I don't know. It might be like a week to week. He might miss a little bit of time here in October. I could be wrong. I haven't seen if there's any update today, but
okay. So he'll be back though.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So, and I think I like a lot of other players on that team. Obviously, Tage Thompson's great. Owen Power, I know he's hurt too, but Darlene too. It's just like they have a lot of good talent that it's gotta click eventually. And Josh Doan too, like that's a player.
Yeah,
is going to surprise a lot of people. They did pretty good in that Paterka trade. Now that we're looking back on it, but as far as my other playoff teams, I have Tampa Bay winning that division. I think just their overall depth is going to carry them, and they have Vasilevsky, so they'll carry that spot. I do have Florida making it, even with the losses to Kachuk and Barkov. I still think they're a solid team. I mean, Lundell, I feel like can just kind of take that spot and just run with it. So I don't think that's. I mean, it's a big loss, but I don't think it'll like hurt them in terms of playoffs. So I don't know if I have them at this. Maybe I'll just put them number 2 because the other team. So I had Tampa, Florida, and then I really like Ottawa. Ottawa's my third team out of that division. Same thing. I think with last year, I think Brady Kachuk's going to kind of will that team. We like the division. We like the addition of Cousins last year. I like it this year. So I think they got some good pieces to kind of carry them into another playoff spot. So yeah, I'm not sold on Toronto. Boston's rebuilding. Detroit, I'm with you guys. I'm not really. Who knows what they're doing? And then Montreal, great story, fun story, electric team, but I think they kind of got lucky in terms of making a playoff spot last year. So
agreed. They're close though. They're not.
Yeah, they're getting there. It's not going to be a lost season, but
Yeah, when I wrote down Toronto, I'm like, do I believe this, or am I just writing this down? And
it's like you just writing them down just because
yeah,
they've been there.
they just happen to lose one of the best players in the league, though, and it's like that might matter.
Can you imagine the psychiatric bills that are going to be in Toronto if they don't make the playoffs?
At least they got the Blue Jays right now.
Yep.
All right, we'll go over to the next division there, which will be the Central.
What did you say? Did you? What was your prediction there, Brandon?
No, I said the thing I'm looking forward to the most is if.
Okay, that's right. Gotcha.
One of these teams that have been starred for playoff, Ottawa did it last year. Will it be Buffalo?
Yeah.
I know Detroit hasn't had it for a super long time, but one of those big hockey cities in Detroit, getting back to the playoffs.
Well, Russ and I called it. Buffalo's making it.
So, which means they're 8th in the division this year. All right. So, getting over the Central, Russ, how do you kind of see this division poking out?
Oh man, this was kind of a tough one. Let me see if I can get to it real quick. I'm still thinking about it, even looking at these teams. Okay, I'll just kind of go at this top. Dallas making it. Their team is unreal. Like you look at that, there's so much talent on that team, especially with the addition of Mikko Rantanen now for a full season. They're going to win a lot of games. So I have them in. Colorado right behind them. Same thing. I think when you have one of the best players in the league in McKinnon, and probably the best, if one of the best defensemen in the league in Makar, you're going to win a lot of games there. This is kind of where it gets tricky for me. This third team. And I'm just going to go with the Blues. They showed me so much last year with Montgomery there. I just think that's going to kind of will them. I mean, Braden Shent's such a great captain to have on your team. And the addition of Cam Fowler now for the entire year, he was great for them toward the end of the year last year. He's going to be with them for the entire year this year. I really like their team, not to mention Broberg now is getting a year older. Holloway's a year older. So I'm going with them third. And then I think I got to go 2 more in terms of the playoff spots here out of this division. So I'm going to go with the Jets and the Wilds in terms of wild card spots here. The Mammoth, they kind of remind me of the Canadians. They're there, but not really making that push. The Predators, it's hard to rely on that team being a good team, especially with what they showed last year. And then the Blackhawks just don't have the talent besides Bedard there. I mean, there's a lot of good young talent, but I just don't think they're a playoff team yet. So I'll go with I think it's the same 5 teams that made it last year. So Dallas, Colorado, St. Louis, Minnesota, and Winnipeg are my 5 teams.
Yeah, I'm with you. After Dallas and Colorado, it got a little interesting for me. And I actually have St. Louis out. But I can see him getting in. I do think Winnipeg slips a bit. I have them making playoffs as a wild card. And I have Utah as my third team in that division.
I like it.
I had said
it's hard to leave them out.
I predicted them last year to make playoffs. They had a good little run there toward the end. But for me, I tend to lean on the D a lot, maybe disproportionately. Maybe I shouldn't, but I do. And they lost Kesselring like that. He was an important part of that D core. I think that was a strength of that team was how good that blue line could move, and how good they were. And he's a big, long piece to that. So, we'll see, what they do there. I know they've got some guys coming in though as well. And obviously they get Paterk in the deal. I think they got some really, really exciting forwards. So I think they make it. I think they make it this year. I think they get in. I had 4 teams in the Central and the Pacific when I did this. St. Louis was not one of them, so I'm going to keep them out. But I hear your positive outlook on them, Russ, and I think there's something to that. And to be fair, Minnesota was tracking as a team that was probably going to make playoffs last year, but then Kaprizov goes down. So I like Gustafsson, the goalie, quite a bit. They just signed him. Eriksson Ek, I think, is as underrated a player in the league as there is. So, Minnesota, I'm probably overlooking here a little bit too, if I'm being honest. But you know what? I can't quit Utah right now. So
you have 4 teams?
Dallas, Colorado, Utah, Winnipeg. Yeah. But
Okay.
yeah. And I may end up regretting writing down 4, and probably either Minnesota or St. Louis should be in there. But you know what? I'm going to stick with what I wrote.
Minnesota is one that I think is going to miss. It's just,
Okay.
I don't trust the other teams in the West. They're an overrated team in my eyes. I don't see it.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do
Brandon?
you got, Brandon? What's the intrigue here?
Good talk. I think my intrigue is, Joe said it, is the Mammoth, right? The move, talking about a fan base that's been starved for a playoff win or playoff appearances, and just kind of going through it. It's the soft spot I have with, the Oakland A's, and getting a new ownership and seeing them do well and invest in the town and everything like that. I think they got plenty of young players that are exciting to watch. I think the new logo is great. The jerseys look good. The town is pumped. I think it's just good for hockey in general. So the intrigue there is the Mammoth, and kind of just what kind of season they could bring, and how does that change the outlook of the NHL, right? I mean, you had Vegas have success right away. They're not really an expansion team, but like they kind of moved and like created a new identity in Utah, and how you kind of see, you listen to a lot of people in Vegas, like the Raiders aren't their team. Like they're just the team that plays in Vegas, and they don't want the A's there either. But the Knights was formed there, and like that's their team. That's who they view Vegas is. And I think like the same vibe is happening in Utah, where it's like that is, that is their team. Like that, they're fully behind it. Utah deserves hockey, and they're ready to make some noise in the West. So I think that's going to be an interesting thing to watch this season.
The West, so there's Dallas, Colorado in the Central, Edmonton, Vegas, and then there's 7 teams. Just throw them all in a blender. Utah, Winnipeg, St. Louis, Minnesota, LA, Vancouver, Calgary. You could make a case for any one of those teams to make or not make it, and you could probably be pretty reasonable in doing so, right? That's a lot of teams. Like I think the East, some of those might back their way into the playoffs, because I don't think some is that strong. Like those are all, I think those are all solid teams. But I think it's wide open. It's going to be a battle, that's for sure.
We'll flip it over the Pacific, and I think we'll just continue with that, Joe. I mean, so there's going to be a big battle that says that there's a lot of teams right in that meaty part of the 3/wild card spot. I assume we all have Edmonton and Vegas outside of a catastrophe or major injuries for the majority of their superstars making the playoffs.
Yep.
So where do we kind of see the rest of the division shaking out?
I have Edmonton, Vegas 1-2. I have LA 3rd, and I have Vancouver winning a wild card. And I fully admit, I never know what to make of Vancouver. I'm always wrong on Vancouver. There's been times where I think Vancouver is not going to be a good team, and I think they won like the second division or something like that at one point, or whatever it was. They won the division, or how it totally caught me off guard. Then I think that they're good again, and they miss playoffs. I think it's a fresh start for this team. I think they need it. There was so much turmoil over there, on ice, off the ice. They got a new coach in. I think Pettersson settles in and has a big season. Really like their decor. Their top 3 of Hughes, Roenick, Pettersson. Like that's really, really good. I'm a big fan of that. So, and I like the goaltending. Thatcher Demko is a stud when he's healthy. I understand he's probably not going to be, but I also think Kevin Lankinen's a pretty solid goaltender who just kind of quietly goes about his business, and he continues to do a job. So I think Vancouver is still, they're an interesting team. Like that battle for 3rd in that division is going to be, I think, pretty interesting, because again, LA, Vancouver, especially if Pettersson has a Pettersson season, Calgary's got a whole bunch of enthusiasm. They got a couple of young kids that made the roster. There's a lot of buzz around that team. Or Do we see a surprise? Do we see Anaheim make a run? I think I'm not in on Seattle. Obviously, San Jose is not there yet. But I think Randon, I don't know where your intrigue is going to go for this division. And if I steal your thunder, apologies. But Anaheim is, I think I've said this probably every year. But for real this time, I think Anaheim's an intriguing team. I'm all in on Leo Carlson. I love what they're doing. I love what they're building. I think they got a good crop of young forwards. They're pairing that with a good crop of young defensemen. They got a good young goaltender. There's a lot of positives about that Anaheim team about the future. I don't know that it's going to be this year, but that doesn't mean they're going to be an easy out. So we'll see what happens there. But Edmonton, Vegas, LA, Vancouver, Randon.
Where are you at, Russ?
I think it's going to be the same three teams last year that we've seen kind of every year, feels like. I think this will be the year that Edmonton just doesn't F around in the regular season and they just win all their games. So I have them as winning the division.
So we're playing Vegas. That's your big.
Yeah.
That's your.
So I have Vegas number 2 and I have LA number 3. Yeah, I mean, hopefully.
I want to ask you a question though. I want to ask you a question because it's
I know where
rare.
you're going. Actually, I know where you're going with this.
Do you? Okay. It's pretty rare that the exact, because I think you have the exact same teams in playoffs as last year. If one has to come out, who if you had to make a change, who would it be?
Well, it would have to be LA, right? I mean, that's.
Well, and I mean in the West. Sorry, I mean in the West.
Oh, in the
because
West.
I'll include the wild card because you got the wild cards over there. So in the Western Conference in general. You had the same, I think, I could be wrong. I think you have the same 8 teams as last.
Mm-hmm.
If you did have to pick one that would not make it and replace it, what would that look like for you? Just out of, I know it's not your pick per se. Minnesota. Okay.
Yeah, that's a team I don't trust. I mean, their defense is kind of iffy. I think I like Eriksson Ek, great player. Kaprizov, obviously one of the best players. So, I mean, when he's healthy, they're rolling, but I don't see it with that team. I mean, I can even say Winnipeg too. I'm the same way with them. I mean, you lose Ehlers, that's a big loss. I think a lot of people aren't really talking about. So, I mean, they're kind of just relying on Hellebuck, even though they play pretty good defense as it is. They're also without Dylan Sandberg now for a couple weeks, so that's a tough loss. But I think it's Minnesota or Winnipeg would be the teams. Because I'm kind of with you. I mean, kind of just to run through the Pacific. Vancouver is just like such a coin flip, right? I mean, we it's like the same story as last year. So what are you going to get out of Elias Pettersson? You have the great defense in terms of Quinn Hughes. You have him and Roenick are great together. We talked about on here how much we love Marcus Pettersson, and we're hoping to get him to LA. And you got him on a pretty good team-friendly deal. And Evander Kane's we all know what he is. I mean, he can make an impact in himself. So I think they have some good pieces there. It's just, when am I going to see it happening, right? I mean, and I kind of say this, I kind of feel the same way with all these teams in the Pacific. I mean, I say the same thing with Anaheim. We've been hearing for years now, Anaheim's coming. And I mean, they've made progress. They've made progress, but in terms of them making a playoff team, being a playoff team this year, you traded away Zegras and you replaced him with Chris Kreider and Mikael Granlund. That doesn't really excite me too much. And Lucas Dostal is a great goaltender. We'll see what Joe Quenneville does, but I don't see it with that team still. Jacob Trouba looks like he's lost a step. Radko Gudas looks like he's lost both steps. It's tough to see what they can get out of those veteran players and maybe even try to get the best out of them. So, and Calgary, a good, fun, young team. I think Dustin Wolf is maybe a player you probably look at as terms of Vezina if they make a playoff push, because he looks incredible. And then same thing kind of with Seattle and San Jose. San Jose will be a fun team to watch, not a playoff team. Seattle, I have no clue what they're doing.
It will not be fun to watch.
They're just spinning their tires. They should be in the Gavin McKenna sweepstakes by my account.
Interesting though, too. Vancouver, new coach, right? We talked about how Rick Tockett's out and in Philly, so it could be a totally different vibe around that team. Totally different look, totally different style. Who? That's why I don't really know what to expect.
That whole arena, because it was just nothing but bad vibes last year.
Yeah, seriously. So
I mean, they brought in, Adam Foote is apparently his best friends with Quinn Hughes. So I don't know how much further you need to elevate his game, but
I would have gotten Elijah Pettersson's
start.
friend. Yeah,
exactly. That's where I would have started. Do the whole Knobloch thing.
I think my intrigue right here is old rivals, is Anaheim and San Jose, and I think for me it's all these it's this young talent. When they're going to be here? When are they going to be here? Is the Anaheim thing, and then how does Celebrini progress? Like, you really saw a really good season out of him. Is he truly going to be an elite, center that we're going to have to deal with for the next 15 years? Those types of things, and I feel like San Jose has made a lot of smart moves, and a lot of the players aren't NHL ready, but do they get more run? How does the Barracuda look? And kind of seeing what those types of things go on. And then Anaheim, the whole thing with Zagreus leaving, might be a blessing in disguise from just like a cohesion standpoint, because Leo Carlson looks legit and McTavish is good. And so it's like, do these guys, in which they signed him to a good deal, I think, so does this whole thing kind of shake up? And, they haven't really been rivals lately because the Kings have been good and they haven't. But it's kind of seeing where these teams being. But overall, the Pacific looks like the most competitive division because, like you said, you have the two juggernauts at the top, and then you have a lot of teams that might beat up on each other and take different strides. I mean, I fully expect LA to make the playoffs. I think they will probably get over 100 points again this season, just because they are built for the regular season, like their style of defense and play and getting those teams. But the rest of the teams in that division, I mean, 4 through 6 could look any way you want.
I think, and I was actually talking with Andrew Knoll about this at the game the other day, and he brings up a good point. He thinks the Kings are going to win even more home games than they did last year. And I think we kind of overlooked that fact because we saw teams come into LA last year and they looked horrible. And he pointed it out to me. It's kind of something to think about, because that's a tough schedule to come in here and have that swing in California, especially for these teams coming out east. I mean, we say the same thing for the Kings going out east, but now if you have the East teams coming out west, that's a tough trip to make. And those Eastern Conference teams, like I remember Detroit last year, even though they were already pretty bad as it was, but Detroit and Columbus, like teams that can play good hockey, come in and just looked terrible. Even Washington, I think Noel pointed out, like Washington played one of their worst games of the season last year in LA, and the Kings barely won. So, I mean, the Kings kind of have that home. When you talk about home ice advantage, Kings really have that during the regular season, at least.
Well, I mean, if Anaheim and San Jose are better this year, like that's most of the time when you play LA, you're either going up or down that swing. Having Anaheim and San Jose be a little bit better this season could help the Kings with that home record. I could see something there.
Mm-hmm. San Jose is an interesting one.
Yeah.
Celebrini is so good. So good. It's hard to discount him from carrying a team to the playoffs.
Speaking of outside shots of making a Canada roster, what do you think about him?
Celebrini?
Yeah. Making the Canada roster.
I mean, I think there's a shot. Yeah, because I also think that there's, I could see them. I don't know if the thing is if both he and Bedard would make it, but I think that I wouldn't be surprised if they want at least one of those guys to be on the team, kind of carry the torch into the future, if you will. I think the West is the Pacific and 3 through 5 or 6 is pretty open, pretty up for grabs. Part of that depends on how real like a Calgary and Anaheim are. But I think LA and Vancouver could be an interesting battle. I think that's an interesting point on the home game thing. I tend to think the home road stuff can be fluky year to year. I don't know, but I guess we'll see. There could certainly be something to that. We'll see. There's just not, I guess there's not a lot. Yeah. If you were to fast forward to, April and say these teams made the playoffs, I don't think there's that many that would surprise me. The surprises would be if Edmonton, Vegas, Dallas, Colorado, if they miss playoffs, that's surprising, right? Like Winnipeg last year, winning the division, winning the President's Trophy, that was surprising. Or Washington when they were whatever. Either of those teams winning, being the best, that stuff was surprising. But for teams missing playoffs, like if LA were to miss, I just don't think that would shock me. Just because when you said look at the other 7 teams, like you can make cases for some of these guys. So I think it's interesting. It makes it kind of fun. It should be quite the battle.
It would shock me if the Kings missed the playoffs.
Okay.
Yeah, it would shock me too.
Yeah, I think we're down on the additions of just the length and term, and we're not a fan of Cody Ceci, but I mean the rest of the additions are all right, and the majority of the roster is the same, and we're hoping to see our bold predictions are all progressions from these young guys. So I think a lot would have to go wrong for the Kings to miss the playoffs.
I think
that's
they have
fine.
the 4th or 5th highest odds to make it in the West.
Yeah, that's fine. I think a lot. Yeah, that's fair. But I think a lot can go wrong when you bring in some of the players they brought in. You're inviting wrong to happen. So yeah, I am expecting them to make playoffs. I have them 3rd in the division. I think they will make it. But I wouldn't be like so surprised if Vancouver has a good season and ends up being like, even if LA has an okay season and Vancouver's is just a little bit better, like that wouldn't surprise me at all. Vancouver's got plenty of talent on that team. So I don't know. Like I think it's an interesting, should be a fun battle in division.
If you were to set them the over under at 100 points, where do you think they hit this year?
I'll go under.
Yeah, I'll go under too. We're talking about LA, right? I'd say like 98 is where I'm at. I think that's where like their over under is at right now, like 98 and a half. So I'll say 98.
Yeah, you know what? I haven't even looked at that. Could be.
Yeah, I think they're over 100-point team again.
It could be. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Like if you look, Randy, like you look at the other way around, like a lot went right last year. They had like a record home season. Will it be a record home season again? They had a Vezina candidate. Will they have a Vezina candidate again? I mean, I think, but that, to your point though, we expect Byfield to get better, Clark, etc. So there's reasons to be optimistic. There's reasons to be pessimistic. Just depends on how you want to look at it. Like I said, I think they settle in right into that mushy middle of a group that probably makes playoffs, but I think it's mushy enough to where if things don't break right, they could be on the outside looking in.
Like is Kemper, you think, the biggest X factor of the season for the Kings?
Mm-hmm.
I would expect that, right?
I would say his health is like, I don't know that he doesn't need to play at a 915 save percentage. Like if he's 908, that's fine. Like he doesn't need to be a Vezina candidate for them to make playoffs. Like if he goes down for a significant amount of time and they're scrambling, like that could be a factor. But no, the X factors, if you will, are can they keep their heads above water with some of the guys that they had on the back end with the likes of CC and now another year of Edmonton. Like that is concerning to me, and how they pair those guys and shake out the top 6 back there. Because, where with the loss of Gavrikov, for example, Russ, like, he was good. He's good defensively, and they didn't spend as much time in their own zone. They're just going to spend more time in their own zone this year. Like, there could be a bold. The Kings have been one of the best Corsi share and expected goal share team over the last handful of years here, in large part because of their defense and their structure, and they just smother teams. Like a bold prediction could be that they're like an outside the top 10 team in Corsi share or expected goal share, just because I think we're going to see them spend some more time in their own zone this year. We might see that closer to like a 50-50 split as opposed to 57-43 type of thing. That wouldn't totally surprise me. Not to say I'm expecting it, but again, when you invite wrong stuff to happen, like they did that, their destructure, they're doubling down on it, and maybe that's fine. Like it's gotten them to playoffs, and that could be okay. But I think that's a bigger X factor is how does the new personnel fit in and how does it work? Because, I think that's my question.
Fair enough. Well, if based on all accounts, we both have us playing Vegas or
Yeah,
Edmonton.
all three of us do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
a good
how
thing.
how do you think we stack up versus Vegas? I think we play them better than we do Edmonton. But one, I think it'd be just a breath of fresh air to play somebody different. From a fan standpoint, a mental standpoint, I'm sure the players are sick of playing the Oilers every single season. Like maybe this is something that the whole team needs. If we play Vegas in the first round, is it the same story, different team, or do you think that they could eke out a series win?
I think the Kings have a better chance against Vegas than Edmonton. I would just be hard pressed to pick LA beating them or in a 7-game series because their roster, I think, is just better. Top end talent, better. Defensive group, better. I mean, goaltending, I think, is always kind of a wash. We talk about goaltending, so it's not like the Kings have a true great game breaker in Kemper. I mean, it's not like Vegas has a big game breaker in Hill anyway, but even then, it's just I just think Vegas
Carter Hart.
They have I just think they have the higher end talent. That's what it always comes down to. That's what we've seen in the playoffs the last 4 years. Is the Kings can talk about depth, and we talk about depth all the time, but when push comes to shove, it's can your 5 best players be our 5 best players? And we've seen that happen against the Kings multiple times. And I think Vegas would be able to do that with the talent they have. And we always know what they like to do at the trade deadline. I mean, Rasmus Anderson's probably going to be a golden knight by the time the season's over too. So, yeah, I would just pick Vegas, unfortunately.
That would be significant if that happens. But I'm with Russ. Like I don't think, and this is so to be clear. Like I don't think LA, I don't think Vancouver. Like all these teams that are in the mushiness, like LA, Vancouver, Calgary. I wouldn't pick any of them to be Vegas. If I'm looking at that Pacific Division and any one of those teams that finishes third, like I think Vegas is just better than those teams by a decent chunk. So yeah, it'd be nice to have a different matchup. And I agree, Randon, like they, for whatever reason, they tend to play, they play Vegas a bit better. I think they're similar style teams. But not for nothing, like, Bruce Cassidy is, I trust him to do the job too in playoffs. So, if LA does play Vegas, it would be nice, but I think that they again lose in the first round.
I will just leave it at that. I think it's going to be an interesting season. I think there's a lot of positives going on. I hope for a positive season from this team. The whole doom and gloom of the offseason is over for now. We got a fresh season, a new fresh sheet of ice for everybody there. And so we're going to see how it goes for the Kings, and hopefully all our bold predictions come true, and the bright light of the future is imminent with Byfield and Clark for the future as Kopitar walks off into the sunset after the season. So at least, we're going to look forward to some of those things this year. I'm excited for some hockey tomorrow night. Don't know about you guys. Thank you all for listening and joining the chat. Please get all of our articles throughout the season at hockeyroyalty.com. You can find us at hockey_royalty. All of our Twitter handles are Random Commando 24, NHL Russell, JW Paterino. For all of our rain coverage, follow Kyle at Kopitar4HOF. It's going to be a hot season, guys. I'm excited for some hockey. Tough matchup right out of the gate. We're going to see what this team is made of against the Avalanche. So it's going to be an interesting start to the season. Tough schedule right out of the gate, and we're going to see what this team is really made of. So as always, on this podcast, go Kings go.